Damn, I just looked at Michael Waka. He's got a 3.76 ERA. Love to have him back right now.
What is up, guys? My name is Richie, and on today's show, Charles Fountain joins me again, this time to talk with the Chicago White Sox GM, Jess Stallings. He's only the nicest guy in the league. It was a pleasure talking to him, and here's our conversation.
And I know we didn't send you any questions, but I mean, we're just going to kind of talk about, obviously, the moves you've made, and then kind of how your team's going. So.
Okay. Well, it's hanging in there. That's about it. But you know, it's sad when I look at it and see that I've dropped down back into the mid-20s on my farm system. But
I mean, you got to think too. A lot of the guys that brought your farm system up are on your major league team. So
yeah, that's true. Because I moved 3 of them up. So.
And I mean, the whole reason you have the farm system is for your major league clubs. So.
Yeah. Thank goodness, because they definitely ain't doing anything this year.
Welcome back, too. Yeah. I know it's been a long summer for you.
Yeah, give us a brief update on just how you're doing with your health and everything.
I'm doing pretty good, actually. Everybody knows I had a pretty rough summer and been out of the hospital for a couple weeks now. I've had to go back to the doctor about 5 times, but getting my strength back. I've still got a drain line in. I'll probably have that for a couple months, actually. It's just going to be a slow process. Definitely wasn't the way I planned on spending my summer, but I feel good. I'm not hurting as bad as I was, and I can eat pretty much anything I want. But having the drain line in is a real hassle, especially considering I go back to work next week.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. But all things considered, it's going well. It's going well.
That's good.
Because it.
Let's get to, let's say the trade that you made last night. We'll get to that, but just to start us off, how did you get into the league, and just kind of give us your background on what kind of a baseball background you have within the league?
Well, I've been a gamer for since Pong came out in the 70s, and I've went through the whole generation. I haven't got an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4, but I've been playing games pretty much since they first came out. Mostly I played football sims. Baseball was my brother's game. I always had been. I followed him in it, but football was my thing. So I got playing that, and I'd never played online before, and was on the boards one day and saw the discussions going on about online play and the difference it made, so I thought I'd give that a shot. And Max contacted me a couple days after I posted something on there, and it has. I've never went back to offline play since I started playing online. It's a different experience, and I enjoy it. It takes it to a human element. There's a lot of it that I don't know, and everybody's been really good about working with me and helping me, but it's been a real good experience. Still got a lot more to learn, though, but I'm getting there.
Well, no, we really appreciate, just from my perspective, I really appreciate having a guy like you being on the league and showing up every day, even though, as you admit, you're still a beginner, but you've been making waves. and one of those waves being the very big blockbuster that you've had with Charles, who's also here with us. So conveniently, we have both of the GMs of that trade on. So let's get into that trade. So talk about from how both of you guys managed to approach that trade.
From my standpoint, I looked at it this way. I had a lot of gaps in my team. I didn't have any depth. I had problems at second. I had problems with the back end of my rotation. I had problems in the bullpen, and Chris Sale is a phenomenal pitcher. His ratings are through the roof. He's got a lot to offer. I mean, last year he was a 20-game winner and anticipated to do that this year. But there's 162 games in the season, and to me, 20 games that he might be able to win would be great for those 20 games. But what do I do the rest of the time? I needed a lot of help in a lot of different places, and my thought was if I could fill a lot of holes that I had and a lot of needs that I had with shopping him, then I was going to approach that. I wanted to look more long term with the team than maybe being able to eke out, a winning record this year. So that's it.
So did Charles approach you about Chris Sale, or was it the other way around?
I think I just kind of threw it out, and he was in chat, and he jumped on it, and we started working on the deal immediately, and worked on it for a couple days, back and forth, and I asked some of the other GMs some advice about things, because I mean, to step right into an online league with a player that caliber, and then walk into look into trading, it was something that I needed some advice on, and some of the guys are really good about helping me with advice about how to look at things and how to evaluate the players, because that was the other problem I was having, looking at them and saying I can see Sale was good, but looking at potential, that was a tough one for me, and that's something I still struggle with, is looking at somebody and saying, okay, this is where they're at now. How far can they go? What is the prospects, the true prospect that they have? Those numbers look great, but I'm starting to learn now, when you start looking deeper into things, just because it says they have a potential of 70, that doesn't mean they're necessarily going to reach it.
And just that, I mean, that's real life too,
Yeah.
If you look at some of the trades that have been made in the past for all these top prospects, and it's rare you get a Mark Teixeira for Elvis Andrews, Tolly Feliz, Matt Harrison. It's rare you get that kind of return for a player. Usually you might get one to maybe two. So, it's even in real life, it's hard to justify and really say this kid's going to be phenomenal. And look at Jeff Francoeur when he first came up. He was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Now look at him. I mean, he's had a decent career, but so that's where the fun comes into it, So don't feel like you're the only one that doesn't know. We're all kind of grasping at straws sometimes, trying to figure out these prospects, and it's not just prospects. It's major league perennial players that have been good that all of a sudden you just might start looking bad, and it's just one of those things.
Yeah, and the other piece of it now is I have finally figured out that there's no logic to anything. That's the way I approach things and look at it and say, okay, I would look at it and say, well, this guy's ratings are this and this and this, so he should, in theory, play at this level, and that I'm finding out that's not the case. You look at what they're playing at, not what they're projected to do, and that's been a tough adjustment for me, because I always look at those ratings and what they say, and that's what I've always kind of judged by, and so that's been a big learning curve for me.
And it was definitely I would say probably overall, I mean, just by the talent you got, you probably overall won the trade, and Chris's numbers aren't spectacular, but if you start looking deep, his batting average on balls in plays is 343. Yeah. So, I mean, that tells you there's a lot of bad luck. I mean, his strikeout rate is through the roof. It's, I mean, exponentially higher than it was last year, and he had a great year last year. It's just been one of those tough luck years for him so far. I mean, he's still sitting at a 383, but.
And that's kind of the way I looked at it when we started talking about this. Is he's not going to make or break my team. Now and I know he could have a huge impact on somebody else, but with me, there were just too many other issues I had to deal with, and Waka is come along, and I think he's going to continue to progress. Wong is doing a great job at second. And so the needs that I had and the depth of the needs that I had, it was a really positive trade for me. And I hope Sale gets the support he needs to show what he's actually, to get the wins that he's actually should be earning. But that was kind of the way I looked at it, is I just had too many other issues I had to deal with to hold on to somebody of that caliber and say, well, hopefully I can build a team around him, because by the time I got the team built, he'd be ready to retire.
So did you get any other offers that are anywhere near close to the one that Charles gave you, or as far as the talent and the depth that you're?
No, I got some other offers on him, and a couple of them I looked at, but it was one good player, one good prospect, and then some weak stuff that went with it. Not across the board depth that I was going to get from what Charles was offering me. It was by far the best offer I got on him.
And there was a little back and forth, but I mean, overall the offer I made pretty much was we might have tweaked one thing, but I mean, that was pretty much the offer I went with up front, just as I knew the caliber I was trying to get. I wanted to be aggressive.
I think there was one player that we kind of discussed, but That was it was pretty much what you put up front is what we went with.
Yeah, and in relation to your rotation and having Chris Sale leaving, Jake Peavy kind of really had to step in and be that ace, and so far he's done a really great job for you.
Yeah, he's done a great job. He's 7-3 now. He's yeah, he still won't talk to me about a contract, but he's pitched 98 innings, which with him as wrecked, I've been really excited about. I've got him on a pitch count of 110, but even then he's still got more strikeouts than anybody else I have right now. So it was really nice to see him step up and fill that role. Now, ironic when you look at the struggles he's had in real life and make that comparison, but ironically, he's done a great job, and I've been kind of shopping him ever since the season started, actually, because I with the contract issue with him.
So I was going to ask, how does that necessarily change his trade status? Because with the wrecked injury status, as you've mentioned, it's kind of like a ticking time bomb, and you never really know when he's going to blow out or something.
Well, I look at it this way, just kind of the same way as I did with Sale. You know, I mean, let's be honest. Yeah, I'm 2 games behind the Tigers right now, 3 games after last night, but I'm 5 games under 500. You take me out of the AL Central, stick me anywhere else, I'm 4th or 5th. Even if by a fluke I could win the AL Central, I'm going to get killed in the playoffs. I mean, we got to be honest about it, you know, and unless it was just one miracle after another miracle. So if the offer comes across the board for Peavy right now, he's gone. Yeah, the fans are going to be disappointed, but I dropped to an 82 when I shipped Sale off. I'm back up to an 87 fan approval rating right now. The owner's real happy, and you know, Peavy's pitching. He's pitching great, and he may be that one that somebody else needs that's going to give them that push to get them up to the top. Whether I end up 5 games below 500 or 15 games below 500, it's not going to matter. So that's what I'm looking at is let's get through this year, get as much as we can for who we're trading with, and let's look long term. Let's look at what's going to happen next year. Get some youth, get some growth, get some stability, get some guys on some long-term contracts, and build this team up.
I don't think there's a question out there that Peavy won't help somebody. I mean, we're a little antsy to make some deals, especially after the trade deadline the other day, but I think, you know, we've still got a month and a half to go. Somebody out there there's either going to be an injury or somebody's going to stick in there that's not expecting to, and you'll get a solid return for Peavy. I mean,
yeah, there's a slew of teams needing starting pitchers. Just off the top of my mind, just from the conversations that we've had today, Blue Jays, Marlins, me, you, Dodgers. I mean,
Phillies.
I wouldn't mind having Peavy. I mean, it's undeniable how good of a pitcher he is.
Oh, yeah. And at the same time, he's not coming with a long-term big contract. So, you know, you could look at it and say, hey, well, I don't control him for very long. But at the same time, he's 33, so you're not saying, well, I've got, you know, 2 or 3 more years of $10, $12, $14 million a year. So people are going to be more willing to maybe go after him and bring him in on that, you know, drive for the postseason. So I think that's actually a plus in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, he's in looking at his numbers. I mean, he's pitching beyond himself right now, and like I said, it short term. I hate to say that. Yeah, I'd ship him out tomorrow for the right offer, but this time next year, what good is he going to be doing me? I mean, and he if he continues on, I'm sitting here looking at it right now. They got him projected to win 16 games. That's 9 more games for me. That's not going to win me the World Series. No, it's just it's not, and that's what I'm looking at is build this team back up into a powerhouse. Not what we're hoping to break even at 500, but what we're winning the AL Central, or at least pushing whoever's at the top, and not looking at it saying, okay, yeah, the AL Central's crap, and you take any other team and put them in there, they're going to be rolling over us. I want to make it a competitive division again, and I want to see the Sox on top.
Well, I mean, you weren't exactly expecting to have a postseason run this year, anyway. You know? No. I'm ecstatic where we're at right now. I wasn't anticipating being here. I figured
by this point in the season, I'd be looking at about 10 to 15 games under 500. And the big thing for me, and I've said this all along, is the owner. I want him to be happy, because once we turn the finances over to them, I'm sitting on a lot of money. I'm sitting here looking at it right now. For free agents, I've got 38 million. I've got 68 million for extensions. I want to have that much after he gets control of my finances. And as long as I keep him happy, which right now he's in a good mood, then that's going to be available, because that's where I'm going to be able to make my other impact at, is in the off season. And if I have that money to be able to spend, then I'll be able to pick up some free agents that will really have an impact on the team.
Well, it's not just that. You might be able to take on. I mean, because if you look at the potential free agents, there's some good arms out there. There's some solid players, but you talking about your farm system's not exactly up to par, because a lot of the guys you called up, but there might be some guys out there with some contracts they might need to move that are still good players.
Yeah.
But they need that extra space. And I mean, I'm not talking about specifically Holiday. I know we've had that chat, but just somebody along those lines. If the Phillies have some guys, I know they're pretty much strung with some high salary guys. Just you leave yourself some room there, and that gives you that kind of flexibility as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of my thought, is I keep him happy, which I'm doing. The attendance is up 22% over last year, which is phenomenal. I'm averaging over 42,000 in a stadium that only holds 47,000. Yeah, he's ecstatic, and as long as he stays happy, the money is going to be there, and that's going to give me the flexibility to do some things with.
Yeah, so how happy was he last night after you traded Dunn away?
It didn't affect anything, nothing. I was kind of concerned something may drop, but Dunn at the start of the season was one of the top 5 ranked most popular players on the team. He had dropped out of that. Luckily, the ones I've got that have kind of moved up have made some pretty big impacts. I mean, and especially cost effectiveness. Waka right now is sitting at a 16.8, and Wong's at a 15.9. So those two there, just taking those out of that trade that I made with Charles and sticking them in there, he's real happy about that kind of stuff. And Peavy's number 1 on the most popular list, so I know I'm going to take a hit if I do move him, but I think it's something I can weather, and that's what I'm looking at. Once again, go back to that same thing. Let's see what we can build for next year.
Yeah, and I think you've set yourself up really well. Shipping off Dunn. Let's talk about that Adam Dunn trade from last night with Max and the Indians. So you shipped off, what was it, 12 mil for him?
No, I think he was at 14 this year.
14?
Yeah, 14 or 15. And he's struggling hitting lefties. His batting average was 199, I believe. He had lost all of his defensive ability. He'd been used as a backup first baseman, but he was down to a 1 on that. And he was another one I've been saying at the beginning of the year. I'll take an offer on him. And the trade I made, this was one Max approached me on. Michael Bourn. When I looked at him, he's hitting 285 right now. He's a good backup center fielder. He's got great speed, and the contract was not something I was ecstatic about, because right now he's at 13.5, and he is fragile, so I'm taking a little bit of a risk there. But I'm looking at his bat, and I guess one thing I look at a little bit differently, because Max and I talked about it. Max wanted a power hitter. And Dunn right now, even though his power was through the roof, is, like I said, he wasn't making contact. And to me, get on base. It doesn't do any good if you're getting up there, and if you do make contact, you can jack it out of the park, because you got to make contact first. So when I looked at it, for me, once again, long term, he's somebody that I can stick in there as a backup DH. I can put him in there as a backup outfielder. He's got great range. He's got a good arm. So I've got a defensive trade-off there that I didn't have with Dunn, and I've got what I think's a better bat, a more consistent bat.
Yeah, we were talking about Dunn's situation last week, considering that Rios is coming back in a few weeks, and we were wondering how realistic it was for you to even consider dropping Dunn or releasing Dunn, since had it not been for this deal, would you have done that?
It was crossing my mind. I mean, the thing I kept saying to myself was, if I'm going to pay him $14.5 million, I'd rather him at least be sitting there in case I needed him, and that was the only reason I still had him, instead of just paying him to sit at home, because every now and then he could come in and get a hit, but it was just so inconsistent. With Rios coming back, I mean, that kind of creates a unique situation for me now, because once he comes back and I get him back in the outfield, that's going to give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 outfielders.
7 outfielders.
Yeah, and so I may drop somebody back down to AAA. I know there's some people that need some outfielders out there. I may look at moving one of them. Once again, it gives me some options. And Dunn was only going to fit a very specific need, which is what Max had. With what I'm going to have when Rios comes back, it's going to open up some possibilities. I know I need a first baseman. That's an issue. I've got a catcher. Flowers is just not panning out the way I hoped he would. So I've still got some things that I need to deal with. Keppinger is playing beyond himself right now, and I'm very pleased with that. But I don't know how long that's going to continue.
Well, he's also 34, so long term, he's not going to be a part of your plan either.
No, I've got a couple guys down in AAA that I can look at to pull up, and Carlos Sanchez right now, he's listed as a second baseman, but I've played him at third, I've played him at short. He's got the potential to be a really, really good short or third baseman. But he's 21. He's batting right now it's at 231, and he's still got a lot of growth on his batting that he can go through. But he's somebody that I can slide into one of those positions pretty easily. And so I've got Tyler Cedeno that's playing down in AAA. That is somebody. So I've got some options there to bring some guys up. But I'm gonna ride these guys as far as I can right now, and see where they take me.
So yeah. I mean, as far as you talked about having 7 potential outfielders. Obviously, you can throw one at DH, but at best, you're still, even if you have one at DH, you still got 6. So you talked about moving one to AAA. Who potentially, the trade deadline's coming up. You've got some pieces like you talked about. Peavy, I'm not trying to count you as a seller yet. I mean, there's always, you can stay in this thing, especially how the Central's been so far. But, outside of Peavy, Keppinger would probably be somebody that's, a contender might like to have off the bench. But, I mean, outside of those two, I mean, as far as the outfield, who would probably be the top guy you may be looking to move?
I don't know. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Viciedo, the Cuban.
Viciedo?
Yeah, he if I can get him to give me something on his contract, I keep him around, if nothing else, for his bat. I mean, he's right now hitting 287. He's batting DH, and he's doing a phenomenal job. Diaza, he's batting 270. He's 30. Looking at him, yeah, I think it would. To be honest, Charles, it would be who makes me an offer for what.
Right.
Because T-Coat is not got the batting skills those guys have, but this is kind of what I was saying earlier. You look at his ratings, and he shouldn't be batting 256, but he is. And so he's one you look at and say, oh, okay, how is he doing this? I don't know, but I ain't going to complain about it.
It's been a very pleasant surprise for you. I think every team has a guy like that who's completely playing over their head.
Yeah, well, I've got 2 of them. Jordan Danks is doing the same way. You look at his contact. I mean, his contact is 21. His avoid Ks is 16, but he's batting 233. I can't figure it out now. His numbers as far as his ratings out in the field are much higher than anybody else. But that's what I'm, how to find that balance of somebody that's a good defensive player that's still somebody that's good on the plate. I guess that's the mystery for everybody. But to answer your question, Charles, I guess I kind of went around in circles. Who makes an offer for what? If somebody comes in, because if I say, well, I'm not going to move Rios, for example, and somebody says, oh wow, I was going to offer him, a starting pitcher for Rios, then I'd be sitting there going, well, I just kind of shot myself in the foot over that one. Or I had a package with a top third baseman and first baseman in that I was going to offer him, or a top catcher that could play catcher or first base. I'm not going to shut myself out of something like that.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, and you've shown yourself not too opposed to be dealing within the division either, right?
No, because and that will kind of cross my mind. I mean, Luke, when I was shop and sale, Luke, when he sent me an offer, and he said, I know this is in division, and I kept saying, man, I don't want to face this guy that many times during the year, but it's kind of, I look at it like when I play football and I do trades in football. If you can pull off a good enough trade and build a good solid team from top to bottom, one player is not going to cause you to lose. It's not going to cause it's not going to cause you to win. It's not going to cause you to lose if you look at building a solid team from top to bottom. And if I can do that by trading with Steve, then that's what I'm going to do.
You still good to go, or your pain med's kicking in right now?
No,
we don't want to hold you up. Yeah.
I actually haven't taken them, but
you haven't?
Not today, because I figured I didn't want my head to get too fuzzy. But I found out Lars Anderson. I've been worried about him because he's been on pending report on DL, but he's only out 4 days, which is good. He's just got a strained thumb, so he's going to be back in a couple days. He's going to be coming back, and Rios is going to be coming back at the same time. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how I move those all around. But it's I let people know that there's certain players that, like, if you come at me and say I'd like to get Colton Wong, you better have one heck of a package to put together. But I don't take anybody off the table because it may just be that perfect package that fits in beautifully with what my plan is. Long term, I'm looking to build the team, and where we have consistent, strong play in every position. And that's what's going to win it for me.
Then, kind of tell us what your plans are for Addison Reed, because I've been wondering, just because he was one of the guys that you've extended in the off season, right?
Yeah.
Kind of an under the radar move, and hasn't done so well this year. About 6 blown saves. That deal hasn't kind of paid off for you, but.
No, his contract. I extended him before the season even started. I gave him a 4-year contract, but it's only $12.5 million. So it's not like I've got $60 million invested in the guy and he's having an off year. If you look at his numbers, and some of it I think is the settings, the way I did those, I tweaked some of those, and I think that may be why he's not coming in as many save opportunities he's had in the past, and that's something I'm kind of working on. But if you look at where he's at right now, he's got 3 wins, 4 losses, and 9 saves. His ERA is right under 5, which I'm not happy with. But he's struck out 47 in 31 innings. To me, that's a pretty good strikeout ratio for what he's been doing. The problem he's running into is he's also given up 7 home runs in those 31 innings. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot, just at 7, but the situations that I'm putting him in, you don't need to be giving up a home run, period. And so those have caused some problems for him. But long term, he's going to be in the White Sox uniform next year. I don't foresee. Charles has been teasing me and prodding me to do a trade with him. He's another one. It's going to take an awful lot to move him. Yeah, he's having an off year, but I think part of that's been management decisions I've made, not putting him in the best situations for him to use his talents, and us not being in the situations to take advantage of the talents that he has. So he's I don't foresee him going anywhere.
Yeah, and then what are your plans for Trevor Rosenthal? I know he's in the bullpen now, right?
Yeah, yeah. He's going to have to kind of pick things up. I've been kind of disappointed with him. Part of the issue is I'm learning what an impact that the fly ball tendency and ground ball tendency, what an influence those actually have on a pitcher. He's a fly ball pitcher, and that causes him some problems. He's given up once again home runs. You know, in 76 innings, he's given up 10, but they've been in bad times. His strikeout rate is not bad. I mean, he's got 69 strikeouts, but it's the timing of everything for him. So he's another one I'm kind of watching to see what's going to happen. This is with his contract. I think his contract's supposed to get automatically renewed at the end of the year. So he's still got 2 option years left. If I have to, I'll drop him down and let him go get some confidence. So the problem I'm running into right now is I don't really, if I want to drop him down, I don't have anybody down in AAA to pull up and say, this is where I'm going to go with. And what I may end up doing at one point, though, is dropping him down and running with 11 pitchers instead of the 12 that I have right now.
Hey, but kudos to you for even trying him at starting pitcher to start with, because last season he wasn't even starting, right? He was in the bullpen. So.
Yeah, and if I can get him to calm down some, I'm still not saying that's not going to happen. I mean, his stamina is at 64. He's projected, if you look at the projection for him, he's projected to be a starter. But with 3 pitches, the problem is he's got to get him another pitch. Even though his pitches are, his changeups is a 90, his curveball's a 79, his fastball's a 75. He's got to get something else to add to that repertoire, and if he can do that over the off season this year, that'll make a big difference for him.
Charles, would you have made the same deal or decision that Jess made, putting Rosenthal into a rotation? I know you have a monster.
I was going to have him as
yeah.
Well, I was going to actually. I had him in. Say I didn't make the Chris Sale deal. He was actually going to be in the bullpen for me just because I was worried about my bullpen.
Yeah.
And I had Jaime Garcia, I had Wainwright, Garcia, Lynn, Miller. Even after trading Joe Kelly, I still had Walker and Martinez battling for the 5. So, I mean, I had enough depth that I was going to throw him. He was going to probably be my closer. I was going to see how that went. Mujica's done well, but I like Mujica in the eighth inning role. But that was the deal I made. So I would have put him in the bullpen, but I can understand completely why he would be in a rotation, especially given the fact that, depth-wise, it wasn't really there for the White Sox. So, I mean, you got to give him a shot.
Yeah, that's something for you to consider, Jesse. Trying him a closer, maybe, because he is a closer in real life.
Yeah, he's with his stamina. That's why I've been using him as long relief, and he's filled that role real well for me. Right now with Manny Pera and Godden, I'm using those as a setup and add with Reed as the closer. They've pretty much closed it down at the end of the games for me. At least they've been able to keep that side of things close. I know Pera is still on for 2. He's got another year on his contract. Godden, we're talking. I don't know what's going to go with that because he's asking more than the arbitrator would say they give him. So I'm not sure what will happen with that. But maybe even he's one of them. I think actually, correct myself. That's why he's not even going to talk to me right now. So there's going to be some moves made. Maybe after the September call-ups, I start making some major changes to see what happens. I guess that's the other thing. I see a lot of guys moving players back and forth between AAA and the majors. Unless I see a major issue there, I'm going to let them ride. Especially those younger guys. If I can get them that major league experience and not blow their confidence, I'm going to keep them up there and let them see where they get better. That's kind of what happened with Walker. He started out struggling pretty bad, and now he's got his record up to 5-5. He's got his ERA down to 3.76, and he's pitching some good ball right now. So as long as he continues to play like that, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, he was one that me and Richie kind of talked about briefly before the show. He's definitely turning into the pitcher I thought he would. So it'd be nice to have him, but hey, I'm glad he's doing well for you.
Yeah, it's what I was saying with him and Wong. That really kind of that deal. That's where that deal kind of came in with me. Waka kind of stepped in and filled the slot that Sale would have had, not the same caliber, but filled that slot. But Waka at this point was the piece on it that it really has helped me out, because I was really hurting at second base.
The trade deadline's coming up, so I know you're not too familiar with all the other teams. Who's the one guy you would love to have in your team, from any team?
Well, the one that I know is on the trade block, and I actually just mentioned this to Charles right before we came on the air, as David Price. I've had my eye on him since we started the season. I'm really impressed with him, and I think if there was any way I could put something together without gutting my team, I would do it. That's the problem I'm running into. Looking at my farm system, looking at who I have right now, that would be really tough for me to do. I'd like to bring in another strong pitcher to help kind of anchor my rotation right now. But he's one I've watched pretty much all season. That's the one name that really kind of pops into my head. And the ones everybody kind of throws around that would be a nice pickup, Tulio, someone of that caliber. If it was just carte blanche, I could say whoever I wanted. Mike Trout. I mean, they get his bat on my team. Oh, that would be, a miracle. But the ones that I know are being shopped around and are being talked about, Price is the first one that would come to mind.
Maybe. If the Rays fall out a little bit more toward the deadline, then we'll see.
See, in a team like that, these small market teams, where I've got this extra money, I'd throw some money on top of whatever I could do to make up a difference on something. I may not have the players to take a player of that caliber across the board, but you throw $10 million on top of it as well.
Yeah.
That's for me. That's not going to be that big of a deal because I got almost $70 million right now to sign free agents with. But for somebody else, that $10 million, $15 million, that'd be a huge chunk of change. And for me, that would be a way for me to address some of those kind of issues.
That'd be like a quarter of the Rays payroll.
Yeah, just to say I'll pay your salaries for the next 3 months. Yeah, that's kind of what I would be looking at, is knowing that I don't have the players necessarily, but I do have the money.
So how are you doing with your draft pick signings? I know you weren't there to personally draft those guys, but
I've got all of them signed except for actually the ones I'm not going to offer. There's the guy that was drafted in the 6th round, starting pitcher. Excuse me. His ratings are just atrocious. His stuff rating is 1 to a 25, control 1 to a 10. Excuse me. When I pull up my scout and I say, "What do you think of him?" He says, "It doesn't have any goods and be lucky to hit the broadside of a barn." It's like, well,
Why did you draft Shane?
I let the computer go because
you shouldn't take the Dodgers GM. You need to make sure Shane stays with it. We don't need to be drafting him.
Well, I looked at him and I've got another one, a catcher that was in the 11th round. That's impossible. And this guy, I'm sorry, I wouldn't let him sit on the bench even if he was going to wave a fan on me. He's just, it says he's intelligent, but his work ethic is very low, and when you look at his numbers, you can see that. So I'm not going to pursue him as a shortstop. This guy hit .431 in high school, and he must have been playing against a slow pitch league. He's got his contact rating is 1 out of 6. His avoiding Ks is 2 out of 25. Eye discipline is 3 out of 46. So no, he's not. I'm not even wasting the money on him. And then I've got one more that was like that.
Yeah, save that $70 million.
Yeah. So I did sign. I've got three to a third baseman and 2 pitchers I've already signed, and then I've got a closer, starting pitcher a center and 2 center fielders that I'm looking at signing as well, but they're all up through the 5th round. So except for those 4, out of the 30 that were drafted, I signed them all. Now I've cut 3 of them already. Just there was nothing there. There was no potential there. There was nothing there to do anything with the system. You know, and unfortunately, with all that going on, when I was in and out of the hospital and dealing with that initial effects of, I just kind of set it up and let the computer do it all. And it didn't go the way I wanted it to, but I got some good players that I think I can do something with. I've got one of them out now that's already pitching in AAA, and he's not doing bad. He's got a 2.7 ERA right now, which 18 years old, 19 years old, and he's already pitched his first game. So see how he goes. But one of the things I wanted to address was catcher, and I wasn't able to get anything with that. But you know, it's all good. And my thought is we're all going to be here next year doing this as well. So y'all better watch it, because by my 60th birthday, White Sox going to win this.
Listen, you've done a remarkable job at just turning this whole system around. When you first joined, I was kind of bummed, because I think the Blue Jays were also available, right? And I was just kind of bummed for you that you didn't get the Blue Jays, who they have much better talent, but yeah, kind of stuck with the White Sox. But you've done a great job of just turning their fortunes around.
Well, thanks. I like I said, I was what you call a casual baseball fan. I'd watch it if it was on, but nobody I really followed except the Reds. I'd always been following them from where I grew up in Ohio, but I knew the White Sox. I knew about them and stuff, and my uncle's lives in Chicago and that kind of thing, and my one uncle's as a White Sox fan. So, and when I looked at it, I thought there's something to do something here with. I remember looking, I think it was at Toronto, and there was just a couple things with the team. I think there were some older players and some big contracts that I was kind of concerned with, and I saw some potential with the White Sox, and potential to take it the way I wanted it to go. And then when the GM of the Reds resigned, Max contacted me and asked me if I wanted to move to the Reds, and it was right before the start of the spring ball, and I thought long and hard about it, because that's the team I'd always followed as a kid and when I lived overseas and stuff. But by that time, the White Sox were mine. I spent a lot of time looking at them. I had pages of notes on them. I felt like they were my players, and you know, what kind of GM was I going to be if I was going to say, oh, okay, well, I'm here and I'm committing to this, and I'm asking you to commit to this, and I'm doing all these trades and gutting your team, and oh yeah, well, hey, you guys suck and these guys are better, so I'm leaving now. If at the end of the year it turns around and somebody else opens up and I think it's a better option and it's a team that I could say I could do them, then who knows what the future is going to hold there. But that's not my goal. But I just like with the players, I'm open to anything. I'm open to anything myself. And I like a challenge. I like. It's easy to take a winner and keep them a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like pulling them up.
Yeah.
Well, I would say outside of Tim, I mean, in the Padres, I'd say your guys have been probably the biggest surprise of the season, because I don't think a lot of people expected a lot out of you. And I mean, I know the division, like you said, is a little weak, but overall, I'd say your team's done relatively well.
Well, thank you. Yeah, just now when we face you, if I actually win a couple, you can't get mad at me.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised with the way my team's going. Although the Cubbies are sitting up there, I got to throw the Cubbies in there as a little shock too. Hey, ever since the new guy took over, they've pretty much turned it around. They're sitting in second place in the Central, so I give them a little love too. So Chicago's representing on the north and the south side. Yeah,
it's about time. We it's funny though, as I watch in real life, the way the records are mirroring each other. Especially for us this year, is really kind of ironic. I'm pleased with them. I'm happy with them. The owner's happy with them, and you know, I think if we just maintain, if nothing else, maintain for the rest of the year, we'll be in a good place when this is all over and done with, and we're looking at the changes to make next year. You know, I know I'm going to hit a slide somewhere. We all do, but where we're higher, we're better than we thought we were going to be at this point. We can ride out any kind of storms that hit us like that.
All right, Richard, quit street racing. Let's go.
I think that's all we have for you, Jess. Before you go, just give us your predictions for every playoffs, I guess.
Well, I've told Steve this before, I firmly believe it. I think he's gonna, once he gets the injury issues settled down and he gets his everything kind of falling back into place for him, he's gonna pull away from us. I think if Max can get his self kind of settled down, he's got a good shot of pulling up into a wild card. He's got a lot of pieces that he needs to fall together for him, but they're there. They just got to fall into place and work the way they need to. With the East, I think that's Toronto's to lose. I think their batting is just taking them through the roof, and if they continue to play at the level they're playing, I foresee them taking that one. Let's see, out in the West, I played the Angels three times, beat them twice. I think we went 2-2. That's a tough team. I mean, I was shocked I was able to beat them twice, and I think that's the class of the AL West. They're right now from top to bottom. They're playing good ball, and I think it's going to be tough for anybody to catch up to them. And I think right now, looking at it, that you're gonna see a fight. If and a lot of this hinges on Detroit and their injury issues, they get those resolved. I think you're going to see a fight between the three leaders of the American League to see who's going to represent them in the series. National League right now, you with the East, you got the Nationals at 39 and 30, the Phillies at 38 and 30, and the Marlins at 36 and 33. So you got basically 3 games separating those ones. If the Nationals pitching can continue to hold, I think they're going to win that. But that one is kind of up in the air, and Cy's making a run of it down there in Miami, and I wouldn't count them out at all.
I think Cy is the National League version of basically the White Sox, I think.
I think Cy's going to slip. I really honestly think he's going to sneak into a wild card. If everybody stays healthy, I would not be shocked if he's not sitting there in a wild card.
Yeah, I mean, he's sitting here his last 10 games. I'm looking at he's 7-3. He's on a 3-game winning streak. I think I think it's all kind of coming together for him real pretty. And looking at the National League Central, I think it's something about the Central divisions right now. We're all in tight races because right here you got 5 games separating all of them, and I'm surprised of that. And right now, I think it's going to be between Cincinnati and the Cardinals, and the Cubs may surprise me, but kind of watching the consistency of everything, I think it's going to come down between the Reds and the Cardinals on who's going to pull that one out. And that's about as close as I'll go with that one right now. And with the West, that's going to be the Dodgers and the Padres fighting that thing out. The Dodgers, it's just funny with all the money they pumped into that team, see the problems they're having. But I think it's going to be them and the Padres pulling it out. And looking at it, just what I've been following with it, I think right now the 2 teams to beat are the Angels and the Nationals. I think those are going to be the ones that we may see kind of standing at the top when this is over with, just based off of top to bottom play that I've kind of seen. Some of the inconsistencies the rest of us are dealing with, I'm not seeing affect them as much. Now, I know the Nationals have got hit pretty bad with some injuries on their starting pitchers, but they're still been able to maintain that. So I guess that's I'll go out on a limb and say that's my projection on it.
Yeah, sounds good. So where do you see yourself finishing?
I'm figuring I'll be happy if I'm with 10 games of 500. I think that's with the quality of players on the team, I think that's realistic, and I think that will give me a good platform to build off of, because for the most part I'm going to be dealing with a young team, and so we read everything about how the AI and everything on this game has an impact on what happens, but working with the BTS and doing the things I've been doing and developing the football game with the out-of-the-park teams business, I see how much data goes into the backside of this, and what
are you doing with it? I didn't know you were involved with it.
Yeah, I'm working with the research team on beside the sidelines, doing data research for the football game that's being developed by Out of the Park. and there's about 10 of us working on the team, and all we do is go in and input data on these college football players, professional football players, and when you see how much goes in there in the backside AI part of this, that I think confidence, I think stability, I think when you know that thing in there, desire for wins, I think that's going to have an impact on how well the player plays based on whether or not they're winning. Which is something that you look at it, you know, for me anyway, it was something I put a lot of consideration into. So I think those kind of things, if you have that positive ending to build off of, that's going to carry you even further next year. At least that's my thought on it. But I see myself third, maybe fourth in the Central when it's all over and done with, 10, 15 games behind, but with a happy owner and a solid team to build off of.
Hey, hopefully by the next time we speak to you, maybe after the deadline or something, we'll still be in the race, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah, it'd be nice.
Well, Charles, do you have anything else for us?
No, I appreciate you coming on. Extremely glad to have you back.
Yeah, thank you.
Kind of quiet coming around, so no, I'm glad to have you back. And it looks like Ryan Tampa Bay's on the chat, so hey, reach out to him real quick, see what you can pull off.
Yeah. See what happens with that. Well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you being patient with me, and we'll definitely have to do this again sometime.
No, I mean, we appreciate having you. You add to the league. I mean, that's what it's all about. If we didn't want to have the, you know, cohesion and everything, there'd be no point in having the online league. So you bring a lot to us, and we appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Jess.
Yep.
Nobody wants to look at Richie for that long anyway.